Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening. We welcome you to the Libra Solar Festival webinar organized by 2025 Initiative. My name is Alexander Ilchuk, and I welcome you on the behalf of the 2025 Coordination Group. And we will have an alignment now. So let's align with own soul. And with the inner eyes, you see the circle of friends and co-workers joining this webinar from around the world. And link with each other with light and love. Forming a circle a radiant ring. To visualize the bright heart center of our circle, heart center of our group. Increasing the radiance of the group heart with the radiance of own hearts. And from the group center, we project a light of lighted energy towards the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, linking with the heart center of the hierarchy, the Christ. And visualize the Christ as a radiant sun whose rays are anchored in hearts and minds of people around the world. Bring the focus back into the group heart center. and visualize as our group expands, linking with the worldwide group of world servers everywhere. The group that serves as the link between the hierarchy and humanity. And together we sound the mantra of the new group of world servers. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and the right speech. Thank you. And before we start our work today, I just want to make a short technical announcement. For the last couple months, you probably noticed that we've been having problems with the audio of our webinars, and probably for some of you it's still the case now. And we tried to investigate this problem, and we contacted the Citrix Online. It's a service that we use for our webinars, GoToWebinar, and they said that in order to investigate this problem, they would need to monitor the audio logs of a webinar, and so they will do it today after we finish our webinar. But for that, they would need assistance from people who experience problems with audio signal. So if you have such problems, please let us know either via chat during the webinar or after the webinar via email. And if that would be the case, we would really appreciate if you would let us know about that. And the Citrix tech support, they in that case would need to contact you and to contact your internet provider, but just to trace the problems. So if you would be willing to share your telephone number with us for that purpose, that would be most helpful for us to figure out the problem of sound during our webinars. Thank you. And with that, I want to introduce you Freda Kemp, Freda from Canada. Hello, Freda.
Hello.
Thank you very much for agreeing to present this webinar today. And the topic that you're going to bring to the group focus today is very important, and especially under the energies of Libra, full moon, for which is the theme of money is one of the key themes for Libra. So I think it's a good topic for us to ponder today and meditate. Thank you very much, Freda. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Alexander. Well, I'd like to say welcome to everyone who's joined us for this webinar this afternoon, or the evening, depending on your time zone. I'm very grateful to be here and to present a topic that I'm very interested in. We've called it the spiritualization of money. And so, to very closely with the Tibetans' reflective meditation on attracting money for hierarchical purposes. And I'm going to use this as a starting point for our discussion today. The master, or the Tibetan Jualkul, and you'll hear me use the short form DK for short, but that's who I'm referring to. He's told us that one of the major objectives of the hierarchy is to direct money or planetary resources into the hands of the new group of world servers. And so, again, as Alexander just mentioned, Libra is a wonderful time to look at this, both to look at it from the perspective of directing it, but also to look at our own relationship with money. So Libra, as we know, is a sign of balancing, of carefully weighing values, and of achieving equilibrium between the pairs of opposites. So this is a time when we can reflect, when we can take an opportunity to look at issues of social justice and right sharing and weigh these and consider very carefully. So that's kind of what we're going to do today, very much from the point of view of the individual disciple and our relationship to the plan. So I'm going to ask Alexander the first slide. I've got a few quotes that I'm going to be working with today.
It's coming.
Okay, so I'll just speak to it while you're getting it up. And here we go. The DK asks us 3 questions, very important questions. And thankfully, he not only asks us the questions, but gives us the answers. So it's not that hard a quiz. So the first question, we're going to be going through these questions. I'm going to be looking at themes that flow both the questions and the entire money meditation that he presents to us. So the other thing I'm going to present to you, money pro, or a technique for handling money. And then I will talk for between half an hour and 45 minutes, and then we will have time for questions and discussion. And then we're going to end our talk today with the meditation that DK gives us. So I have sort of pulled out from this very powerful and potent meditation 5 themes. So the first out of the first question, and that is the factor that is deflecting money from the work. So if we look at the first question, we will see if money is one of the most important things needed today for spiritual work, what is, and I'm going to emphasize the factor, which is at present deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy. So that's the first question. The second question relates to our personal attitude towards money. Do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset, or do I think of it in material terms? So this second theme is the theme of a great spiritual asset. The question is about our personal responsibility in regard to money which passes through our hands. Am I handling it as a disciple of the Master should handle it? So this concept of should a disciple of the handle money will be my third theme. The fourth theme comes from the whole area of transformation and direction of money to the work of the hierarchy. And that comes in the second part of the money meditation. And the final theme is the right use of money and right sharing. So those are the 5 themes that I'm going to be covering in the talk today. So let's dig deeper into this first question. We learn from this first question that money is considered by the hierarchy one of the most important things needed for spiritual work. So that's quite important. It's not emphasizing all the other things that we meditation, it's emphasizing this one important aspect. And we're asked what is the factor which is deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy. if we can go, DK answers us the question in the very next section of the meditation. Alexander, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be great. We can see that it's obvious that money is often used for personal reasons, for purchasing what is wanted, maybe, but not needed. It's used to desire nature. So in part, he says, visualize the money in the world today as concretized energy, at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction where the individual is concerned of purely desires. So the simple answer to the question is money is used for selfish purposes. But he also identifies of materialism as hindrances to the working out of the plan. And in the next section, and the next slide, I've got two slides here. It's quite long, it's called Indictment of the Forces of Capitalism and of Materialism. Ooh, that didn't work out too well, did it? Oh, that's a bit better. So he talks about the capitalistic. So I'll just read you the quote. He says, every nation, such men and organizations responsible for the capitalistic system are to be found. The ramifications of financial grasp upon humanity were, prior to the war, active in every land, and though they went underground during the war, they still exist. They form an international group, closely related, working in complete unity and intention, and knowing and understanding each other. These men belong to both the Allied nations and the Axis powers. They have worked together before and through the entire period of the war, blocking directorates under false names and through deceptive organizations, aided by neutrals of their own way of thinking. And the second part of this quote's on the next slide, and I'll just keep reading. Today, in spite of the disaster of the world, they are again organized and renewing their methods. Their goals remain unchanged. Their international relationships remain unbroken. They constitute the greatest menace mankind is today. They control politics. They buy prominent men in every nation. They ensure silence through threat, cash, and fear. They amass wealth by a spurious popularity through philanthropic enterprise. Their families live soft and easy lives and seldom know the meaning of God-ordained work. They surround themselves with beauty, possessions, and shut their eyes to poverty, stark unhappiness, lack of warmth and decent clothing, the starvation and the ugliness of the lives of millions, by whom they are surrounded. They contribute to church agencies as a solve to their conscience to avoid income taxes. They provide work for countless thousands, but see to it that these thousands receive so small a wage that real comfort, leisure, culture, and travel are possible. So that's fair to apologize for its length, but it is a very damning indictment of the forces of materialism. And I often think of this, the forces of materialism, as if it were a parasite. So we can see that it is, in this case, sucking the energy from humanity, so feeding themselves while most is sort of starved of nutrients. It describes that in the last sentence there, real comfort, leisure, culture, and travel as being some of the benefits. And although this was written, obviously, the Second World War, we can see the forces of materialism are certainly much better organized and certainly working very hard to amass the wealth of the world. We know not just the 1%, but it was recently published that the 0.001% controls, I think, almost 99% of the world's resources. So the problem and the concentration of wealth has gone on unabated since the Second World War. Now, this can cause us to be angry, upset, but it's really not worth our energy in reacting to this situation. Our our position as disciples simply should be to understand it, know it, acknowledge it, but not allow our emotional reaction to get engaged. Our job is to work for the light and not to react to what's going on with the forces of materialism in the world. So if we were to complete our answer to the first question, it would be individual selfishness and organized selfishness, as we just presented. So DK has identified this group as the greatest menace mankind faces. And so the face in this work is direct to wrest the control of money and resources of the planet away from the forces of materialism and place it under the control of the forces of light. So let's go on to the second question and move through this meditation, answer how to do this. So the second question that he asks us, and that was on the first slide, we don't have to go back to it, I'll read it to you. It says, what is my personal attitude towards money? Do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset, or do I think of it in material terms? Can you put up the next slide? So most of us might answer this question that we probably still see money in material terms as a means to an end, to pay our bills and to receive money to earn our living, fulfill the needs of our household. And so the question we really want to ask ourselves is, what does this mean? What does it look like as a great and possible asset? So in this next slide, we see that DK identifies money as what I've identified or placed at the title here is the quote, the crux of the problem. So he says a main hindrance to the plan is the spiritual inertia of men and women of goodwill. Two basic needs today are for trained workers and adequate financing. The crux of the problem, spiritual work in the world today, is a financial one. Workers need to recognize that money is the consolidation of the living energy of divinity, and that the greater the realization of love, the freer will be the of that which is needed to carry forward the work. It still remains for the crystallized aspect of this energy of creative intelligence, money, to be used on a large scale for the furtherance of the spiritual hierarchy. It is at this point and connection with money that the greatest test of goodwill in any individual, group, or nation demonstrates. So he's highlighting for us a very important point here, and that is that money is a test of goodwill. So he's really saying, as light workers, do we put money where our mouth is? Do we act according to our values? Do we spend our money according to our values? That is the question he puts to us. And if we look at the next quote, it reiterates. So if I could have the next slide, the greatest test. I'll start reading to you. Oh, sorry, I think we want the greatest test first, but I think it's the next previous slide. He says, the occult significance of money is little appreciated, yet one of the greatest tests as to the position of a man upon the missionary path concerns his attitude to and his handling of that which all men seek in order to gratify desire. Only he who desires not for himself can be a recipient of financial bounty and a dispenser of the riches of the universe. So as workers and servers of light, one of our questions to ourselves is always not about how to get money, more money for the separated self, but how to get it for the work and how to do our part in this service to the plan. So we see from the previous quote that one of the barriers is this sense of inertia or basic selfishness that we tend to experience, or DK has identified in the spiritually minded people and their inability to give to the work of the hierarchy. So addressing our relationship with money is a key component of our growth, the spiritual path. And we see in the quotes that I've identified that it presents a test. How we use our money is a test to our level of spiritual evolvement, more or less. Okay, so on now to the next theme, our next question, and that is, as he puts it to us, what is my personal responsibility in regard to money which passes through my... Am I handling it as a disciple of the Master should handle it? So I think this is the deepest question that we need to respond to. This asks us to ponder our money. Money and the development of this sort of wise skill of how to handle money as a disciple is key if we are going to move forward in both and in our own spiritual evolution. We have to understand that as disciples, we are out here living a spiritual life in a material world. And so how we learn the problems with handling money becomes a model for all humanity. So as we create these solutions, we kind of create pathways for others to follow in our footsteps. So this is a challenge, and I'm going to put two ideas forward on answering DK's question. How should we handle money as a disciple? So I'm going to suggest the first one is consciously, and the second one is generously. So how do we handle money consciously? Well, the first thing is we need to be aware when we are handling money and recognize and have of highlighting for us that this is an opportunity for practical service. So one of the things that was recommended to me by one of my teachers is to use the observer. The observer is a component of the soul, monitoring our activities, and we can refer back to the observer if we want to see how we handled a particular situation. So we can ask our observer to help remind us, this is an opportunity for service when we're handling. We need to develop a very simple asana or practical approach methodology for handling money. So we need to be receiving gratitude and thanks, and we need to end it with love and blessings. DK has identified for us that money is simply concretized divine energy in this life force, our life force. This is money that we have earned through the expenditure of our energy, and therefore it represents our own life force. It is an extension of our energy field, our aura. As we give our money forth, we want to be giving it out into the world the same way we want to do all of our expression, and that is with a sense of love and gratitude. So I use this little prayer. Have I covered this? I may have got these slides out of order. I'll just read you the little prayer, and it's actually on the next slide. So I receive money and put it into my queue, and I say, may this money be cleared of any negative accumulation. May it be blessed with my light and love and dedicated to the one life and the glory of God. And if you want to simplify that, thank you is the simplified. And when we send it forth, or when I give it out, I say, may this money go out in blessing. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. So to simplify this, bless you. You, bless you. Thank you, bless you. So this is the kind of the practice, that very, very simple practice that will help us manage money as a disciple of the Master. The other thing is that we want to engage in each transaction, from the grocery store to the drugstore to the gas station. We need to engage in these transactions in full awareness. Recognize that we're here because we are being offered service by this company, by these people, and we need to express our appreciation and gratitude for service. Even if we don't particularly like the gas company, we have chosen that gas station or that drugstore, wherever we're shopping, for a reason. It's convenient, we like the process. And so we may not be totally in alignment with our values, but at the same time, we need to express our appreciation. If we don't, we are more or less what I call poisoning the well. So we're poisoning the stream of money we're sending forth because we're angry and resentful. And this is where, as a disciple, we need to overlay a higher sense of awareness, not allow our personality to dominate these kind of transactions. Now I want to talk about the money that I believe we could say has dropped below the threshold of awareness. So for most money that we may receive, we might receive it directly into our bank accounts. Our pay might be deposited into our bank accounts on a certain day of the month. Our taxes are paid automatically by our employer out to the government. Our mortgage payment is just simply transferred from our bank account out to the mortgage company or to the bank that's holding our mortgage. Our utility payments may all be done automatically. So in a sense, we're not really conscious of these transactions. But we can kind of take a moment, a meditative moment, to provide kind of a blanket thank you to all those pay deposits and all those tax payments. So we can say thank you to our employer or anybody who's sending us money. Thank you for all the funds that we're receiving. And we can do it for all 12 or however many payments we might receive over the course of the year. Our consciousness capacity to move forward and backward. So we can set up a kind of a blanket thank you for all those deposits, if you will. And the same time when money is going out of our bank accounts, so 12 payments or 24 payments or however payments are going out of your bank account. Thank you for all those and bless you. So that is kind of an approach, and maybe in the area of discussion we can talk about this whole idea of spending money consciously. The second part I want to talk about is the area of generosity. Now, it's a key area because we have many esoteric groups, many New Age groups, many spiritual groups who are all attempting to establish a new model of funding in the new group of world servers, especially the ones who are demonstrating an Aquarian focus. They are working hard to establish a new method of funding the work that has been in the plan. And this is an area that, again, as we solve these problems for how to fund the work, we are not just solving them for ourselves, but setting up models for the future. And so this is why it's very important. Typically, I would say spiritual and esoteric students are not particularly mindful of what things cost. And they aren't always as generous as they could be or should be in supporting the work. And in some cases, they're not even as generous as the average person out there who is supporting their church or their spiritual institution or the various charities out in the community. And you know, in some way, we need to look into our own psychology. What is going on here? Why are disciples not supporting the work, perhaps to the extent that they could and should? So I'm going to offer a few insights into that. So one of the issues is duality. Many disciples living lives of duality, where spiritual life is over on the right-hand side and the daily life is over on the left-hand side, and neither the twain shall meet. So in other words, their work on the spiritual level is really just done from the spiritual levels, from the mental plane, and is not really affecting or influencing very much that goes on in daily life. And that is really just, would say, a certain path. As the disciple progresses along the path, then the whole being is engaged, not just the mental vehicle. In other words, the entire life is an expression of spirit on all levels, and therefore money can flow really generously. And that is what DK is getting at in the quote that I just bypassed. So maybe if we can just go back, Alexander, we can just see that quote. So basically, this is what DK is saying. He says, the time will therefore when you will, as individual and as part of a master's group, subordinate your personal lives to the need of humanity and to the intention of the master. You will be and not struggle so hard to. You will give and not fight constantly the tendency not to give. You will sanely and wisely, and as a normal procedure, put the work of the master and of service first. I say it's really a level of maturity and point on the path. As we progress along the path, this tendency to give will increase. The other observation I have is that typically it's, many of us spend what we earn. Our earnings go up, so does our spending. So desire nature can easily expand to fulfill, in some case, more than fulfill our regular income. And so when we ask ourselves, how can I possibly more than a minimal amount? I simply can't do it because I have all of these monthly bills to pay. And so the response I give is that really choose to give and we really want to give, we need to kind of carve our giving out of our desired nature. And by that I mean that we need to give something up. And that means we need to look at our daily life and expenditures and reserve ourselves as we go about our daily life spending our money. So I'm going to pick on a favorite of everyone, and that is your Starbucks favorite coffee or whatever. You know, it costs a lot of money. It costs well over $3 to have a mocha latte, whatever. So this is the kind of example. What we need to do is identify those areas where we're spending for our desired nature. Could be a bottle of wine at dinner. It could be, you know, a very nice meal. It could be a whole variety of things. The next nice outfit I just had to have. But this is the area we can identify, find resources to give to the work of the hierarchy. We need to give something up. So DK suggests to us that we save every, and we could add every month. We take the money that we have saved at the end of that period and we offer it up to the hierarchy because he tells us it can be an attractive unit in the master's plans. So I'm going to make the same, that we each try to give something to those organizations that are spiritually important to us, or of the new group of servers that we see out in the world doing important work. Could be anything from the Red Cross to Doctors Without Borders to whatever refugee organization want to support. I don't really need to tell you. What I'm suggesting is that we have at least one esoteric group or spiritual one that is providing us with teaching, education, sustenance, and one clear member of the servers who's doing tremendous service out in the world, and that we give generously to those organizations. And frankly, if it doesn't hurt just a little bit, you probably haven't really dug into your desired nature. It's when you hit that sort of safe center that says, oh my God, you know, can I survive if I give this much? That's when you know you've probably, yeah, you're giving what you should be giving. So that includes the answer to the third. Now I'm going to move on to the topic of that I call transformation and direction. So DK in our hands an important responsibility. That is the job of turning money around, of transforming it from what we'll call this dull gray crystallized substance into this golden stream that can be available to the work of the hierarchy. He asks us in the money meditation to ponder on the redemption of money, of humanity through the rights to oh yes, take that slide up. To visualize the money in the world today as concretized energy, at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction the individuals concerned of pure desires. And then to visualize money as a great stream of flowing golden substance passing out of the control of the forces of materialism into the control of the forces of light. So this is our job. And if we look at the next slide, we'll start us off with a quote where he kind of helps to orient us within this job that we've been assigned. He says, all humanity, no matter what the place of residence, color of skin, or religious belief, is clamoring for peace, education, justice, and economic security. All the right use of money and a recognition of the financial responsibility of each one based on spiritual values would make rapidly possible. The major opportunity with the mass of good, kindly people all over the world in all spheres of influence. The power of the individual is not yet truly grasped. A vast opportunity before, but it requires courage, patience, and loving understanding to do the needed work. So, undertaking this forming the money of the world, we work first of all with the great principle of spiritual work, and that is that energy follows thought. As we think about a thing, an item, a person, or idea, we're also directing our lives towards that item or person. When we're talking about money, we are constantly imprinting that money with our energy. So make a difference with money. We make a difference imprinting it with our light, our love, and our goodwill. As a matter of fact, Tibetan asks us to be, in effect, money launderers, transforming the money that passes through our hands. So we want to take that which we receive, which is full of this heavy energy of materialism. It's slow, it's sluggish, it's gray, and we need to transform into golden energy that is supports life, and we need to basically then place it at the disposal of the new group of world servers. So the analogy I'd like to use for this same kind of work that we're doing on ourselves, we're seeking to kind of solarize our matters or our energy field, and we do that by being soul and transforming our vehicle from lunar substance into solar substance, substance that is responsive to soul. Similarly, we're doing the same thing with the planet supply. We're solarized, making it so that it's responsive to Christ and the hierarchy, and of course responsive to the plan. So this is our responsibility to rededicate money that passes through our hands. And it really doesn't matter how much money we are passing through. We can influence the entire planetary money. And maybe you can just put up the next slide, Alexander. So I have a couple of quotes that basically make this point for me. The first one is a really excellent book I'd like to recommend to you called The Soul of Money. And she says, the power of money is really derived from the intention we give it and the integrity which we direct it into the world. And she goes say that money is like water. When it's flowing, it can purify, cleanse, and create growth and nourish. It can carry blessed energy, possibility, and intention, or control, domination, and guilt. So again, how we present money out into the world is very important. And then we have a second and more kind of esoteric statement of the same principle, and this comes from another wonderful book I'd like to recommend to everyone, Disciple in Economy by Lucille Cederkranz. And she says that after the consciousness has realized the inner divine purpose of money, it can then unique, which will make it a center of transmission through which money can pass, receiving a positive charge and be transmitted throughout the system. So then throughout the system, because this is how we're going to work. So I'd like you to take a moment and visualize your money. So your money is probably not sitting in your wallet, although there's representatives of your money, like your bank card and your credit card and a small amount of cash. Your money is sitting in your bank account, but that bank account represents your energy field. And so you can visualize this money account as this golden energy. And when it's flowing, when you're using your debit card or your credit card, it's flowing along the lines of communication, the same lines that we use for transmitting. So it can either be copper wire, and it can be moving as electrons, or it can be fiber optic cable moving as light, or it can be radio waves that are going to and from the satellite. And money, it's touching down in the bank account of the company to which you're paying your bill. And we can see the funds transformed from one bank account to the other bank account, and we can see funds as gold energy as well. So those funds now carry the energy, as we visualize this extension of our own aura to include not just our bank account, but all bank accounts within the bank we branch. You can see it touching all banks, are communicating with that bank and the bank of the company from which we're paying to the bill. And as banks communicate and send money here, there, and everywhere all around the world, and those communication lines, we can see the entire communication network filled with this golden light. So now these funds that are the energy of this golden light, which is of the hierarchy and the Christ, are now at the disposal of the new group of world servers for the betterment of humanity. And as we specifically go about of making, let's say, a donation, as we the Master DK states in the money meditation that whether the sum is large or small, it can become an attractive and magnetic in the Master's plans. So any little seed of money that you've just used to pay, this golden energy, has the capacity to attract to it other monies of a similar vibration. So these can become this kind of seed or in the Master's plans. He also tells us that the concerted effort of many over time can help to transform the entire money system. He says at the end of the meditation, or the quote that I'll read in a minute, may this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. So as we're sending our money forth with this kind of dedication, you can think of it as I think of it as infecting the bank that I'm communicating with. And as the number of esoteric students, we may be just a small group. Let's see, there's 4 on this call today, but many spiritual esoteric people all over the world. As we do this together, we may be small, but we have a tremendous power when we link up under the direction of the hierarchy. Person working alone. You're not even just 47 people. We are all the people that are connected within the great network of light. And so we have a tremendous power at our disposal. The power to transform the organization through which this money is flowing. So if we think about the organizations that we're doing business with, banks, hotels, education facilities or institutions, hospitals, whatever, even our governments, as we're paying our taxes. As we send in Christed energy into these organizations, this will help to transform those organizations. So this is the template for the New Age. It's not a destruction of the old institutions, but it's a transformation. And it won't be a gradual one, but it'll be quick, dramatic change, either through a single crisis or a series of crises that will force these institutions and organizations to transform. And this is how we'll help by kind of implanting this lighted energy through the power of our money into these organizations. We can think of crises that some organizations go through and the impact is, thinks Volkswagen, the sort of transformation that they're going to go through over the next little while as a result of the crisis they're going through. So that is the idea of what I'll call money transformation, or money laundering for good purpose, as I call it. Okay, so I'd like to have the next slide if I could. So the value of money in service. So this brings us to our last topic, and that is right use of money and right sharing. I'm hoping this will also be a topic expand on in our discussion this afternoon. So let's look at this quote for a second. The aspirant has an appreciation of the occult value of money in service. He seeks nothing for himself, that which may equip him for the work to be done. And he looks upon money and that which money can purchase as something which is to be used for others and as a mean to bring about the fruition of the master's plans as he senses those plans. So I would say DK is pretty hard on us. In other words, he doesn't give us much slack. There's in there that I can see about buying a nice meal, a great terrific present for myself. There's nothing in there at all. It's totally about focus on the plan and the work. So this requires a tremendous amount of reorientation to get to this level where money is used for others and as a means of bringing the fruition of the master's plans. Where are we going with this? Well, I think we're heading in the direction of what we will call right sharing. And the is that we can see the age growing up around us, and we can see it in many, many different places. And one of the places that we can see it is what people are now calling the sharing economy. And it takes a variety of forms, but the power of the information technology that we have at our disposal, and plus added to that, I think, the emerging Aquarian consciousness of young people today. They think about sharing and they realize that they have the power to connect with many, many people through the internet, and therefore sharing is much easier than it was in the past. So we see things like crowdfunding for a variety. Sometimes it's businesses, but many times it's for very good work. We see how to free up things in and generate income from things that normally would not have generated income before through the sharing economy. We see websites and we see new services. Some people like, some that people are maybe challenging, but Uber is one example that comes to mind, and Airbnb and other forms of sharing that are non-traditional, coming out of the Pisces, to be very natural in the Aquarian economy. So the whole idea of online marketplaces we see as ways that people can easily sell their goods. These are examples of how a community can come together and do things differently, and also free up capacity that already exists within communities and allow people to generate from places that had never generated incomes before. So these are examples of how things are coming about. The other thing that I think is always encouraging is that because of our communications technology, we can communicate and see where there's problems in the world, problems that we were never aware of before. And so we see often the of so many members of disasters to refugee crisis, to all kinds of different areas of human suffering and need. And the powers of the new group of world servers that are for all of these in unusual places, they have the capacity now to reach out and to invite us to participate. So these are examples where we can see a shift. And I think the other area is the Sustainable Development Goals. These represent a blueprint of the plan as it's been sort of crystallized or presented to humanity. And it offers us all opportunity for sharing and managing the world's or the planet's resources in a fair and equitable manner. And so these sustainable development goals are really the blueprint for us to share and how to participate in an economy that is true, is right, and provides justice for all. So that concludes my talk for today. I'd like to just briefly summarize. We open it up for questions. So one of the things that we've reviewed today is we've reviewed this idea of handling money consciously, of protocol of giving thanks for receiving money and blessing it as we send it forth. We've discussed the idea of being more generous to the work and giving. We know that money is one of the and the demonstration of the right use of money is one of the tests, really, of initiation and of our progress along the spiritual path. We've also looked at this concept of transforming the money that passes through our hands from gray to gold, and I've given you a little bit of visualization, but we're going to dig deeper into that when I talk about the money protocol. And finally, sort of the standard of which we will be evaluated, and that is by asking nothing for the separated self and simply invoking money for spiritual service with a recognition that is to be used for others and it's a means to bring about the fruition of the Master's plans. The meditation, sorry. Sorry, I have one more quote that I think that would be useful. Maybe we could just put that up. It's called Skillful Use. So I'm going to just end on this quote. It is only as a skillful use is made of the supply for the needs of the worker and the work that supply continues to pour in. The secret is use, demand, take. Only as the door is unlocked by the law of demand is another and higher door unlocked. So thank you, and I'd like to now open the floor for questions and discussion.
Thank you very much, Freda. It's such a powerful presentation, and yeah, very timely. Please tell me, how much time do you think we would need for the meditation, that to allocate the right amount of time for the questions and comments?
We have about a half an hour. We have then equal time, about 15 minutes for questions and discussion, and maybe maybe I'll say 10 minutes for the meditation, and that leaves us 5 minutes to close.
Okay, great. So just remind for our participants how you could contribute to this discussion. You can use the function of raise your hand button on the control panel, or you can leave your comments on the question sections. But it's always preferable to hear your voice and to feel your streaming energy through your voice. So it's not just questions, but also comments and contribution, as this sharing is part of building up the meditative focus and group thought field, mental field leading to the meditation. So I see 2 hands so far, so I will unmute Sybil Lerman. Hello. Hello, Sybil, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Can you?
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Sorry. I just want to say thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, and my question was just on the very last. The last I don't understand the use, demand, take.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. He's giving us a little hint here, and what he's really talking about that we all need to look at is this idea of blockage. So basically he's talking, think of this as a pipe. So if the pipe is blocked, the energy can't flow. So what he's really saying is to spend the money, so spend your money. So think of money coming out of the bottom end of the pipe. Make a demand. A demand can be thought of as a suction. So the spending and the demand create suction, and then money is poured into the top of the pipe. So take. So he's trying to give you a proper order to do things. We really often reverse the order, and that is why we can create blockages. And many of us have blockages in our system, and the reason we have blockages is because we're not generous with our supply. And if we're not generous, then we essentially dammed up the flow of energy or money that should be flowing through our system. Have I answered that question adequately?
Yes, thank you.
Hello? Okay.
So I will unmute now Sheldon. Sheldon, you unmuted.
Maybe add a supplementary. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, Freda, thank you. It's a wonderful, wonderful talk. And
Thank you.
just wanted to ask you, thinking about Lynn Twist, hearing her again yesterday talking as the redesign of currency. Is that something that you've given much thought about? Because I think that's something else that maybe too much for this talk, but it's also something discussion, I think.
Well, yes, I actually have. And, one of my thoughts is that I think we should start using what I'm going to call local currencies. The challenges that we're facing around the like EU faces the challenge of this one currency that doesn't always work for all countries. And the same thing would be true maybe in North America and the United States. I think we have the power to create, if we want to, local currencies that drop down below the level, that really speak to small communities, to local communities, and our needs to develop and maintain and sustain local economies. Because the world needs to function on two levels. Yes, we need this global kind of communication and flow of money, but we also need healthy, stable communities. And I think this is one of the things that we need to develop in the future. Yes, the US or Canada can have its own currency, but maybe what we need are currencies to be spent and sharing amongst cities, for example, in local communities that stimulate the flow of money in and through and around within a local economy. I think, again, people have started some progress. They never really seem to get to kind of the sort of swapping services that we have out there to make them really successful. But I think very small and very possible developments of this local currency idea.
Thank you.
Great.
There seems to be a delay between our voices, so we might interfere with each other, but I apologize for that. There was a question from Melissa Boscovich. I'm still unclear about the use, demand, take. Can you give an example to clarify further, please? Thank you.
Okay, so let me just see if I can come up with a credible example. But let's say that we are operating our own spiritual center, and one of the things we need to do is spend money on renting a facility. So rather than wait for to rent the facilities, it's on front the money we borrow it or we take it from our own resources, we rent our facility. Then we demand. So we basically ask through the power of our spiritual invocation the money to pay for the rental of this facility. And then take. What take means is you need to be taking the money from the spiritual storehouse. of the earth. We need to be, in a way, doing it in a very commanding way. So we're taking the money from the spiritual storehouse, and then what happens is through this power of what I called suction before, the money will naturally flow in to pay for that facility that we've just fronted the money for, either from our own resources or through our borrowing of funds. So that's just an example of the and why this is use, demand, take, as opposed to take, demand, use to reorient the request, or the secret, as he calls it. I do have a sort of follow-up to this that DK talks about as well. So many of us, I'm sure, are struggling with how to find money to do the work. So one of the other ways that DK suggests of doing this is using the principles of resonance. So basically what he says is take the need in, I like to, because I've studied as healing, so I like to use my hands when I do this, but let's say we take the need in one hand. So let's say we take the need of the refugees, the current Syrian refugees, and we place that in hand. And the supply, the resources that are going to fill those needs. And as we bring our hands together, we basically ask those two things, the need and the risk, be brought into resonance. And when we do it in esoteric healing, we'll kind of hold our hands together until we kind of sense a flow of energy between our two hands. And if our hands aren't, that means there's no resonance, there's no flow. But if you hold it for a little bit, you'll find that there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of resonance, and it starts to flow. The third way of do it in a triangle. So again, the need in one hand, you take the resources in the second hand, and then with your ajna center, you take the soul aspect. So let's say we're taking, again, the need, financial needs to provide sustenance and housing and food and clothing and supply to the refugees that are pouring into Europe at this kind, and all of the refugees around the world, and on the other hand, the financial monetary resources that could fulfill that need. And then in our ajna center, we're holding the soul, what I'll call the soul aspect, or the Christ. So we're bringing three things into resonance. So the need and the resources. So we just hold that in our consciousness until we get a kind of a signal that those three things have been brought into resonance. That means that we've connected the need with the supply. And that's a technique that I didn't really bring out in this talk, but that's techniques that DK gives us as well.
Thank you.
Do we have another question?
I don't see raised hands, but I have a question on my own, if I would be allowed. From my experience working in esoteric communities, there are quite a number of people who have financial struggles themselves. And whenever this theme of money rises, people say, like, yeah, that's all great, that's all fine, yeah, I'm willing to contribute to the money for the spiritual purposes, but I don't have money myself, like I don't even have enough money to pay my bills. How do I do about it? How can I attract money just to sustain myself? Do you have anything on that?
Well, I think one of the challenges is that we often are not completely comfortable in the world as sort of spiritual disciples. In other words, we often feel that we're at a sort of sense of dissonance with the world of work. And I think it requires and a recognition that we are here to do things in a new way. We're here to take jobs, to work in the daily grind of a tough and difficult and challenging job, maybe a job that is we might think of as even beneath us. But we're there for two purposes. One, we're there energy into those organizations where we work, and we're also there to learn to be of service. And so when I hear a lot of spiritual disciples and people talking about, I just hate my job, I'm just not in the right place, and I really have nothing in common with these people I work with, I really think that people are often, placed or in jobs or in situations for purpose, and that purpose is to bring light into dark places. So first of all, what I'm trying to say is for spiritual people, don't be afraid to go out and get a job. Get a real job, do work, real world. But don't put so much time and energy into your spiritual life that you don't have time to actually do a real job. Our challenge is to do both, and to do both really well. That is our challenge as disciples. So that's one argument. The other, challenge, I think, is that karmically, or perhaps we've all come maybe out of lives where we were, in spiritual service, and we really, adopted the kind of Christian model that there was something wrong with money, that it was bad, it's wrong to earn lots of money, and so we came with this kind of poverty consciousness, and we kind of need to change that around. I think DK has said there's nothing wrong with money, that the disciple that can use money in service is entered the riches of the universe. Don't be afraid of earning money. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing bad about it at all. It's part of our duty to earn money so that we have the resources to work. And I think the third thing I want to say to people that say they don't have money, they really need to look at their desire nature. A lot of times we say we don't have money. We're buying our coffees at Starbucks, and we're buying the latest fashions, and we're out to dinner with our friends, and this, that, and the other thing. So we really do need to contain our desire nature and make sure that it is not busy spending every cent that we earn. We need to contain it so that we are generating money that can work.
Thank you, Freda. There are a couple comments from the audience. From Sybil Lerman, she says that those are great visualization working with esoteric healing. I also love your teachings about balance in spiritual work and physical work in the world.
Thank you.
And another comment from...
it's not easy. What we're doing is not easy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, was that me you were speaking to? I thought we had another comment.
No, yeah, please go on, Freda. Yeah, there is a delay between our audios.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that it's not easy what we're doing. This whole path that we're on of living a spiritual material world is full of challenges and stumbling blocks. And as we do this work, as we perfect ourselves as disciples and as behaviors, we are presenting to the disciples that follow us a pathway for them to live a more whole life in the. Okay, so if there's no more questions or comments, I'd like to start the meditation.
Yes, please.
So I would like it if you could put the meditation up on the screen. So I'll walk you through this meditation. For those of you who have the books, the meditation is Leadership in the New Age, Volume 2, and it's page 228 to 231. I should also say that this is the bookend to meditation for reflection on the reappearance of the Christ. And we're invited to do this meditation every Sunday. So the first stage is simply sit quietly. We want to reconnect with soul. So reestablish our alignment. After achieving a positive and intended personality quietness, formulate clearly to yourself and in your own words the answers to the following questions. If money is one of the most important things needed today for spiritual work, what is the factor which is at present deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy? What is my personal attitude towards money? Do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset? Do I think of it in material terms? What is my personal responsibility in regard to money which passes through my hands? Am I handling as a disciple of the Master should handle it? Ponder on the redemption of humanity, the right use of money. Visualize the money in the world today as a concrete energy at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction, where the individual is concerned, of purely personal desires. B. Visualize money as a great stream of flowing golden substance passing out of the control of the forces of materialism into the control of the forces of light. Me the following evocative prayer with focused mental concentration and from a heartfelt desire to meet spiritual demands. And you'll see the quote at the bottom of your page. O thou in whom we live and move and have our being, the power that can make all things new, turn to spiritual purpose, money in the world. Touch the hearts of men everywhere, so that they may give to the work of the hierarchy that which has been hitherto been given to material satisfaction. The new group of world servers need in large quantities. I ask that the needed vast sums be made available. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. Then take a moment to visualize the work to be done by those groups which claim your present allegiance. And this could be the service activities of any spiritual group of which you are associated with, or any other group which you know is attempting to carry out the hierarchical plan. Then, through the creative imagination and by an active will, see untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. And now please say aloud with me under number 4. We'll work just our way right. He for whom the whole world waits has said that whatsoever shall be asked in his name and with faith in the response will see it accomplished. Remember at the same time, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And then we say together, I ask for the needed money for and can demand it because from the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. And we close with careful consideration of our own responsibility to the plan. And each week, plan your financial cooperation with the hierarchy. Be practical and realistic, and know if you do not give, you may not ask, for you have no right to evoke that which you do not share. And so the end of this meditation, DK gives us four suggestions. He says, this meditation is so simple that many of you may regard it as innocuous and perhaps futile. Used by many simultaneously, it may shatter the impacts which at present prevents adequate funds pouring into the work which the hierarchy seeks to accomplish. He invites us to this meditation every Sunday morning. Take what you have saved during the previous week and dedicate it to the work, and present it in meditation to the Christ and his hierarchy. Whether the sum is small, it can become an attractive and magnetic unit in the Master's plans. So please just take a moment and think of the money that you've saved, that you are offering to the hierarchy. Think of lifting it up, presenting it to Christ and to the hierarchy. Realize the occult law that to those who give shall be given, so that they may give again. Attempt to feel true love sweeping through you, and have the fixed intention to express this love to all you contact. It is the great, attractive, and selfless agent in world affairs. We'll complete. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to you, Alexander, for the closing. And I'd like to thank everyone who's joined me today, and also Alexander for inviting me to do this talk today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Freda. It was very informative presentation, and I think it gave a lot of material for thought for us and for reflection. And thank you. And let's keep this theme in our meditation throughout this full moon. And the exact time of the full moon is tomorrow, for Eastern time. For those of you who are in Western Hemisphere, it's tomorrow, and it's 10:58 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, and so it would be next day, Monday, for those of you who are in Eastern Hemisphere. And I want to remind you about our coming webinars. So the next webinar, it's going to be on October 15th. It's going to be New Moon webinar following the Cyclic Meditation Project. And in that webinar, we will be preparing for this Scorpio month. And the next webinar after that is going to be on October 25th. It's Scorpio Solar Festival webinar with Martin Buick and Nancy Seifer from the United States. And together we will ponder on the topic, the path of living discipleship. And thank you everyone for your work today and for your contribution of your energy and working together. And thank you, Freda, very much again. So let's stay connected. And just a reminder, for those of you who experienced any problems with sound, please let us know via email. And in that case, please let us know your telephone number that the Citrix technical support team would contact your provider, and please let us know the name of your provider. So thank you again. And just at the very end, I had to do it a little bit earlier. I want to share with you Freda's email. We've been asked about it at the beginning, and I'm doing it only now. So you will see it in your screen in the chat window, but also it will be available on the archives section of our webpage, along with the recording of this webinar and the slides. Thank you again. Have a productive meditation.